Hello guys and welcome back to another video. And today I'm gonna show you the only 4 ETFs that you need and that potentially can turn you into a millionaire. You don't need to be an expert in order to invest in the stock market. And in fact, then there is only 4 ETFs that you will ever need in order to get a well-diversified portfolio that potentially can turn you rich. I know it sounds really simple, and that is exactly what it is. There is no reason to overcomplicate it. So by the end of the video, you will regret not having watched the video sooner. However, before we get to it, then in case you're new to the channel, then my name is Casper, and here we strictly talk about investing and financial freedom. So if you like investing and you want to retire early, well then press that subscribe button below. And also guys, please leave a comment with the video on which ETFs you have in your portfolio. It would be very interesting to hear that as well. Moving on to the first one that you should buy and hold for life, and that is VOO, or the Vanguard S&P 500 index, which is basically an index that tracks the 500 largest companies within the US. And these companies are weighted by market cap. So the bigger these companies are, the bigger is their proportion within the index. And looking at the list of companies, then we do see some big and amazing companies. And they have their biggest positions in big companies like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, and so on. And when looking at the sector breakdown for this ETF, then we do see that they have the biggest exposure to technology stocks, and that accounts for roughly 30% of their entire portfolio, and that is then followed by healthcare and financials. It is pretty safe to say that VOO is heavily invested into tech stocks, and that is also very easy to see when you're looking at their returns, where they during the last 12 months are up by 22%, and that is absolutely amazing. And when looking at the last 10 years, well then they're up by 172%, and that is absolutely incredible. And the fund does not only have 500 amazing companies that have produced a very good return, but they're also paying dividends. But it is not a dividend focused ETF, and their dividend yield is sitting at 1.38%, and they have a 5-year growth rate in their dividends of 6%. Overall, then is the dividends for this ETF here not that amazing, but the return is absolutely amazing. It is one of the best performing indexes out there, and it is one of the most reliable indexes out there. So moving on to the second ETF that you need in order to become rich, and that is QQM, or the Nasdaq Index Fund. And this fund here does include 100 of the world's largest companies, both US and international companies. But you don't see any financial companies in here, so no banks or other financial institutions on this ETF here. And just like the S&P 500, then is this one also weighted by market cap. So the bigger companies, they have bigger proportions in this index as well. And when looking at the list of holdings, then we do see some big and well-known companies like Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, and so on. And when looking at the sector breakdown for QQM, then we do see that they are heavily exposed to technology stocks, and that accounts for more than 50% of their entire portfolio, and that is then followed by telecommunications. And when looking at the returns for this fund, then we do see that during the last 12 months, they have given a return of more than 44%, and that is absolutely incredible. And the fund was created back in 2020, so the total return for the fund since that is 51%. Overall, then is QQM an absolutely amazing investment that has given some great returns. And the reason for these returns is because they are so heavily invested into tech stocks. And tech stocks have been the best performing stocks during the last couple of years. So it also makes sense that this ETF here has seen some big returns. However, just like VOO, then is QQM also paying a dividend. But they are absolutely not focusing on dividends. But they are paying some. And they have a very low dividend yield, sitting at 0.62%. Since this is a pretty new ETF, then there isn't really that many dividend statistics here. But you shouldn't be expecting much when it comes to dividend for this one. They are not focusing on that, they are focusing on the return. And the return for this one is absolutely amazing. And it is very hard to beat. So the dividends doesn't really matter that much. So moving on to the third ETF to buy, and that is VXUS, or the Vanguard International Index Fund. And this one is meant to diversify your portfolio to stocks outside of the US in order to reduce your overall investment risk. And looking at the holdings, then we do see some big companies like Taiwan Semiconductors, Novo Nordisk, Nestle, and so on. And looking at their sector breakdown, we do see that they have their largest exposure to financial companies, followed by industrial and then technology. The sector breakdown is looking pretty evenly spread out, and overall, then there is not a single sector that they are heavily reliant on. And looking at the returns over the last 12 months, then they have given a return of 5%. And over the last 10 years, they have given a return of 12%, which to be honest isn't that great. But the performance of international stocks have been very mixed during the last couple of years, especially when looking at places like Asia, Russia and Middle East. But hopefully then it gets better going forward. But overall, then it does really help to reduce your investment risk, and that is exactly why this fund should be in your portfolio. But the fund is paying some pretty good dividends, and they have a dividend yield sitting at 3.24% and a 5-year growth rate in their dividends of 5%, and that isn't too bad either. And overall, then is this a very reliable fund that is paying some nice dividend, and having something reliable to fall back on whenever times get tough is always very nice. And that is why it is on my list today. So moving on to the fourth and last ETF on my list today. And this is actually one that is going to be putting money into your pocket, as it is a dividend focused ETF. And that is of course SCHD. And what is great about this ETF is when looking at their holdings, we immediately see some very high quality dividend paying companies like Broadcom, Abbey, Merck, Home Depot, Amgen and so on. There is basically a ton of them. And these companies here are all very reliable companies that have been increasing their dividends for more than 20 years in a row. And that is what makes this investment here so powerful, because not only does the companies increase their dividends every single year, but the price of the fund is most likely also gonna go up. And that is what makes this investment here so extremely good. And let's just have a look at the return for SCHD. And during the last 12 months, then they are basically going in zero. But over the last 10 years, then they're up by 115%. And that is absolutely amazing for a dividend focused ETF. But let's just have a look at the most amazing part for this ETF here. And that is of course the dividends. And they currently have a dividend yield sitting at 3.45%. And they have a 5-year growth rate in their dividends of 13%. And that is absolutely incredible. It is unreal how they are growing their dividends at that rate. And they have also been increasing their dividends for the last 12 years in a row. So SCHD is a powerhouse, and you're getting the best of both worlds when investing into this one. You're getting some very nice dividends, and the share price is most likely going to go up as well. So it is definitely an ETF to buy and hold forever. So these are basically the top 4 ETFs, and the only 4 ETFs that you need in order to become rich and retire as a millionaire. And that was all I had in today's video. Thank you for watching the video, and if you liked the video then don't forget to press the like button below and subscribe to my channel for more weekly content just like this. See you guys in the next one.